Hey, good afternoon. This is Gary. Happy 4th Eve, I guess. So we actually are going to celebrate our 4th with family today, but wanted to knock out a quick video and just kind of do a walkthrough like I posted about yesterday. But this is Jestins engine, so kind of want to go through it and then show you a couple things on the cars, on the actual Jestins car. But anyway, like I said, this is Jestins engine, and this was actually dropped out. I mean, obviously it's clean now, but we didn't drop it out just to clean it, but it was a good excuse. But we did drop it because we had previously messed with the oil pan and had an oil pan leak. So lesson learned there, never reuse oil pan gasket, even if it was a freshly built motor. If you drop it, go ahead and change it. So that's the Moroso oil pan setup. And you kind of see the starter down there. And for the 4T80 guys, that's actually why that pan was developed, because they had to have a starter. This is the F40 6-speed. And as you can see, it's got the Fortec shifter. That's the short shift change. And then with that, you had to do some modifications to Fiero Guru's bracket there. So this one has the wave track, limited slip diff, and it helps a lot. You can actually feel pretty different, a big difference. Haven't tried the other one yet. So we do have a Quaife LSD that's going in another build, another transmission. So we'll kind of see how that one feels compared to this one, but you can tell this one is pretty aggressive. These are our larger axles, and this is also the Solstice hub, and you can kind of tell how big that outer CV is compared to the stock. And the nice things are these things offer a ton of clearance. 30% larger outer CV, 30% larger axle. And then Justin's also running the Fiero Guru lateral link lowering kit. So obviously the intake, that wasn't changed recently, but when he did do the change, we went with the sandwich style intercooler. And much like the 3800 setups, it is just a lot more efficient. So it freed up almost 5 pounds of boost, going from 7 to about 12, just with the intake change alone. In typical Justin style, he upgraded the headers. I don't know if I can say upgrade, but he did swap them out. Mainly, it's just a different style. We'll try them out for future builds, but also it just makes it easier to change the plugs. So the last ones we had to actually drop the header to change the plugs. That was not a lot of fun. And then it's got the lower alternator bracket. On this one, Justin extended the top arm to swing it down further, so that the cam sensor was we could clock it back to normal position, and then the harness is now out of the belt routing path. It just makes the clearance on reading the cam a lot easier. There was a spacer behind it, and even though it really didn't mess with it too much as far as spacing, any little difference can throw off the sensor. It's a hall sensor, so any distance that it's brought out of the block, or any distance and gap between that and the actual pickup can throw it off. So just to rule it out, we put it back to stock location and lowered the alternator, and now you don't have to worry about moving that plug to clearance the belt. So that should be good. This is the Mazir water manifold for their LS series, and it does work very well. Looks nice and clean, and plenty of clearance. So it's all billet aluminum, and you can add ports in there for steam ports or whatever you prefer for return. And then on this side, obviously the turbo return, turbo plumbing, and he did add a new style, the new bellow style, for the header instead of going with the mesh. So this one should be just a lot better quality. And then other than that, just more of the fuel regulator and all the top stuff. Right now the coolant ports are capped on the intercooler. And then blow off valve down here. The other thing didn't show earlier was the manifold for the vacuum block. So that does work pretty good. Instead of tying multiple lines off the intake, it's just easier to run off this block. And then that way you only have one line running from the intake to the block, and then the block kind of disperses from there. Just keeps it clean and organized. So that's pretty much it. Sway bar end links. So that's a new design. They're similar to Rodney's Zero Lash, but these have no way of coming loose. So they work much better, and I'll show you kind of on the front how they're set up on the car and actually bolted on. So here's the underneath of the beast, I guess we can call it. And the newest thing is the Rodney Dickman tank. So if you notice, we did clean the engine bay up a little bit. So she's looking pretty good, nice and clean. But here's the, what do you call that? The fuel solenoid for the flex fuel. Waiting for the last piece of the 90-degree elbow to come for his new fuel line. So we changed the tank. We also swapped out the lines, so they're all AN fittings now. So AN to AN, no slip-on fittings at all. And then here's the coolant lines that run up to the water manifold, and they go through the trunk first, and go through the heat exchanger in the trunk, and then back to the top of the intake, and then from the intake back down the car to the front, and then go through a pump that cycles it there from the water tank up front. So other than that, you got a couple things. We moved the block out, the C500 back to here, what we use of it anyway. And then when we put the liner in, you can see how that's totally covered. But the power adapter, our power distribution block for that is now up here, which was moved obviously from up in the side up there by the sail panel. And then the power distribution block where the power wire comes in, where we're running a new one. I think that'll be here. Actually, I think we're gonna have to run and pick that up. But anyway, rest the underside is nice and clean, and that's the good thing about having a California or a desert car. Actually, this car came from Nevada, so frame rails, and even though we haven't cleaned underneath here, it's still pretty clean. So again, here's the suspension and the big brake kit. And then, like I was talking about, these links for the sway bar links, they just work great. You don't have to worry about them popping out. I like the Rodney for the stock setup, but for these and to add tension, they pop out of joint. So just didn't work for us. But if you have a stock setup, they seem to work fine on the stock setup. And the same thing, double adjustable QA1 coilovers. They have obviously you can see Justin's got a suspension set all the way down, and the Willwood big brake kit. So up front, he's running 375-pound springs with the dual adjustables, and that is plenty of adjustment for this setup, and it's nice and smooth. you see how low his car sits, so being all the way down, that's the lowest it'll go, which, you know, for people that want it lower than that, like Kyle and some of those other guys, you can go to a different spring, just a straight 2 1/4, and use adapter sleeves on the top for, instead of having this taper spring. And then here's just some of the other things underneath. Here's how this front lip, Justin actually ripped it and had it fixed. So this is the back side, and now it looks much better. And that's all cleaned up, so that's good. And then obviously you can see the clearance. These brakes have a lot better clearance on these 13-inch Acadia rotors on these wheels. So the last wheels cleared pretty good, but there's definitely a lot more clearance on these. So that works very well. And then you can see how we have the rear struts up there, and how they're hung, just waiting for the cradle to go back in. So other than that, just wanted to give you a quick update on where we are. This will go back in today, hopefully, if he gets some time when he gets home from work. I'll keep working on some other stuff that we got for customer builds. And then we will see you guys here at the 40th. So until then, continue to get ready.